Welcome everyone to the next episode of Purposely. It's been a while. I've had a little break. I think school holidays have been in the midst. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Tara Howell today. Welcome, Tara.
Thanks so much for having me, Emily. Wonderful to be here.
Awesome. So Tara is a fellow Taswegian, although apparently I'm not going to be called a Taswegian ever because I wasn't born here. But were you born in the beautiful Tasmania, Tara?
Yes. I can say I'm truly Tasmanian. Yeah, born in northern Tasmania and still here and absolutely love it. Yeah, but welcome.
Thank you. Loving it here. Never going to leave. I feel like it's your story and your journey. So just to kick things off, if you were at a dinner party and someone said, "Oh, g'day, Tara, how are you? What do you do?" How do you explain what you do? Because you do lots of things. So I'd be really interested to hear your spiel.
Yeah. It's always so hard when I ask that question because you're like, how long and how much detail should I give you, at the dinner party? But I mean, my main gig and my number one business is Blue Derby Pods Ride, which is a luxury adventure mountain biking experience based out of Derby here in northeast Tasmania, both your and my favourite spots in Tasmania. And so that's a really special experience. Over 3 days, 3 or 4 days, our guests join us and they have beautiful Tasmanian food and wine. They stay in our really unique accommodation pods and they're looked after by our guides where they ride the trails and are taken for their 3 or 4 days with us. So that's really special and that's my absolute full-time gig. And that's really I've been working on that project for a long time and then been operating for 4 years. And so then in addition to that, I also have a couple of other roles. I'm Deputy Chair of the Tourism Industry Council here in Tasmania, and I am the Chair of the Mountain Biking Network here in Tasmania, which is the peak body for mountain biking. And then I'm a councillor on the University Council, which is kind of like the board of the University of Tasmania, which is, a really great organisation here. So that's me at the moment. But my background, in addition to tourism, is also brand and marketing. So, yeah.
There we go. Very interesting. So you've definitely got your fingers in a few pies. So you're a woman after my own heart. So you obviously like to keep busy. And you've also got a little one. So you've got an 18-month-old. Is that right?
15.
15.
Yeah, Winton. He is cool. Very cool little kid. Keeps my husband Steve and I very busy. A lot of fun.
Yeah, that age.
Life up,
Yes, yeah, they can be a bit of a handbrake, especially when you want to go riding. But anyway, have you got one of those little things where they sit on the?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. There's a name for it.
Yeah. There's a couple of different ones. We have a little seat that he sits in front, and so we've recently put him in that, and he also has his own little balance bike. And I think we've almost built I'm not sure if it's good or a bad thing introducing him very early on, because he often in the morning will walk around saying bike until we get him on the bike and have to take him for a ride, which is great for us, but also it means we're riding very early in the morning sometimes.
That sounds pretty good though. Indoctrinate them early so that they can be riding with you. Yeah, my 8-year-old is really starting to get into the mountain biking now, and obviously living in St Helens, there's lots of other kids that are into it. Yes, so it's really good because where we were from in Melbourne, none of our friends' kids were really into mountain biking. So it's really good. Yeah, I can't wait for the day where we can just all go for a ride together and all keep up with each other, although I'm sure my son will be like, "Mum, you're really slow now."
Totally. That will happen. There'll be a sweet spot where you're all the same, and then suddenly, they'll be in front.
That's it. So let's go right back to the start though, Tara, because obviously you're running your own business now and you've got all of these roles within the community. But let's talk about, I like to go right back to the start and hear your story of how you ended up where you are. So let's talk about growing up in Tasmania and northeast Tasmania, and what that was like, and what led you to study marketing, and then how you decided to start your own business. Such a unique tourism experience. I mean, I've stalked your website and I'm like, oh my God, I so want to do that. And I was looking at doing it for my 10-year wedding anniversary, but then I hurt my knee. So anyway, but I really want to do it.
The 11 year.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think growing up in Tasmania, I grew up in Launceston, which is the northern city here in Tasmania, and it was a pretty, I think, a normal Tasmanian upbringing. You know, we call Launceston a city, but it's a small town. You know, yeah, it is. So, and I have a great family. I'm the middle of 3 kids, and an older and a younger brother. And I suppose the defining thing that we talk about with our family upbringing is my parents owned a building and construction business. So we grew up in a working family with my mum working and my dad working. And I really think that's been pivotal in who I am today. And it's one of the reasons why I like to see both parents working, because it's such great role modeling, and of many memories being, you know, doing things with dad at work, but also doing things with mum at work. And I think that's really a really great part of childhood. So that definitely was, you know, it planted a seed in my mind from a very young age that I would be in business. And in fact, it was in my dad's mind, I think, that I would work in the family business. And my brothers went down that path, and they now have taken on the family business and are doing really well. They're both incredible. But I wasn't really passionate about that, and from a pretty young age knew that I wouldn't, and decided to take a gap year when I finished school, and I started guiding on the overland track and at the Bay of Fires here in Tassie. So guiding 4 and 6 day trips, bushwalking, luxury adventure bushwalking, which I really liked because I really loved the outdoors and I was really keen to bushwalking. And so that definitely started my way into tourism and the luxury adventure space. And then that coincided with me thinking I should go to university. So I started at UTAS and decided to do bachelor business. And I thought, if I'm going to want to get into business in something one day, marketing and accounting will probably be helpful. Marketing avoid, accounting was like, you know, yeah, that face. A good skill to learn. And so while I studied, I also continued guiding and started really forming my values and beliefs through that time. And in addition, I also met this great guy, Steve, who is now my husband, and he was a mad keen mountain biker. This is a beautiful Tasmanian story because he used to mountain bike with my older brother. Yeah, very Tasmanian. And so, you know, things went this way and that way, and we ended up together, which my older brother was very happy about. So that's good.
He was happy or he wasn't happy?
What was that? Sorry?
He was happy or he wasn't happy?
He was very happy, and they're still best friends.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Sometimes the older brother can get a bit funny, can't they?
Totally. No, not my older brother, no. And so we were having lots of conversations about wanting to do something really cool in life, and something we're really passionate about. And we have always loved northeast Tasmania. We mountain biked in around Derby, actually, when there weren't these beautiful custom built trails there. Yeah. We honeymooned in Derby and Wellborough, like what? And so we had that passion spot, and then I fell in love with mountain biking. Steve, you know, finally said, "You're going to love it," and I just love it. And this idea started forming about a luxury adventure mountain biking experience. And so Derby then got put in the cards, and we heard whispers of it, and we started talking to the council about their vision for Derby, and it really we thought if this goes the way they're saying, I think this is where we want to have this idea, which was Blue Derby Pods Ride. And so, yeah, we decided to take the leap. And at that time, I was running my own consultancy, a marketing consultancy, and Steve was actually managing an automotive store, and we quit our roles. I moved into the consultancy full time, and Steve quit automotive, and we started pushing Blue Derby Pods Ride. I was 23 and Steve was 25. So that's the journey to starting Blue Derby Pods Ride. Yeah.
Wow. And so did you get some funding, or how did you fund it? Because it's a pretty amazing enterprise. Like, it's just aesthetically beautiful. Like, it's just in this really remote location. It looks like it cost a lot of money to build those accommodation units. Like, they're not like anything I've ever seen before. So how do you take an idea like that and sell it to someone, or get the funding to be able to do something like that?
Yeah, they are really beautiful pods, and very unique, which was part of, we really, really, really wanted that. It's a point of difference, you know. Well, lots of different, you know, I think there's an element when you're quite young in business, which is, I think, you know, definitely a strength. There's an element of naivety, and that is actually really good. You know, if Steve and I were doing, we probably would still do it. I'm not sure, maybe we wouldn't, but we didn't know so much that we just thought we can do anything. And so it is a multi-million-dollar development, and we were pitching and proposing that we had to get approved by Tasmanian government and Parks and Services. We've got a lease on some land in the middle of the Derby network, so we had to negotiate that, and we had to get that funding. And so we were that age, just pitching our big idea. And, you know, in all honesty, we had a lot of people going, bad idea. But we just completely believed in ourselves and continued to back ourselves in those conversations. And we had a motto that we would keep going until we cannot open any more doors. And if that means we keep getting doors and we end up launching this project, brilliant. But if it means we get to a point and we just cannot open a door anymore, we'll just stop. But of course, we kept going. Yeah, and to answer your question specifically about the funding, we funded it ourselves. We self-funded it. So I'm like a really, really weird saver, and I've saved. You should ask my parents. It's so embarrassing. I probably saved every penny of my life. And then we got a bank loan, and we also were lucky enough to get a government grant, Australian federal government grant, which also helped us as well. But we had an amazing bank manager who helped us, and she still works with us to get that loan. So we did try other options like investors, etc., but we weren't successful in any of that. And in hindsight, I'm so grateful, because now Steve and I just own the business. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. That's a great story. And I love the fact that you pointed out that, you know, when you're young and naive, that you don't have that mentality of this is too big, or people aren't going to like it. You just kind of go for it. And this is why I love talking to millennial entrepreneurs, because they have this mindset of anything is possible. And that's, you know, for everyone listening out there, that's really important. So if you do have an idea and people will tell you, oh, that's stupid or that's shit, don't listen to them. If you've got this burning passion and you want to do something, anything is possible, as long as you do the work and you put in the hard yards and you believe. So that's amazing. So you did win Young Victorian, not Young Victorian, that's programming, Young Tasmanian of the Year a couple of years ago, and you've won some tourism awards. So how did that feel, being, you know, your business of 4 years old? It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think winning awards and accolades always feels really surreal, because you know, you don't start a business to win an award. You start a business to feel a purpose or a burning desire or passion, you know, and yeah, it's wonderful, and we always feel very grateful and very very lucky. But they've just come along, and we've just felt very privileged to get them. Yeah, the Tas Young Achiever Award was really unexpected, actually. The category, there's another couple people in the category, literally we were like, no chance. So that was, very unexpected.
Amazing. So looking back over the journey, has there been times when you've wanted to give up, or like it's just been like, oh my God, what are we doing? Or has it all been smooth sailing?
No, there's not been smooth sailing.
That was the lowest question, of course.
Business is not smooth sailing. Absolutely not. No. You know, I feel like we see our journey with Blue Deer Pods Ride, because we're nearly 8 years in a Blue Deer Pods Ride. We've only operated for 4. So it took us 4 years to get, it took us 4 years to get Blue Deer Pods Ride actually even going, and then 4 years we're now in that far. And so we see that startup stage of getting the business up and going. That was so hard. Like, you know, that belief point we just talked about before, we had people not believe us, people we respected, people that we admired, people that we thought were wonderful, you know, saying it's probably not a good idea, or that's very risky, and things like that. And that really put huge seeds of doubt in our mind. So that was really hard. And then obviously those hurdles that I just said, you know, I just quickly waffled over like getting funding, but that was really hard, because we had to go through so many different avenues and, you know, be turned down and said no to so many times, and you have to be incredibly resilient. And then of course we launched the business, and you know, when we did the build and then actually launching it, it was such that first trip, like, you have no idea how that felt. Like, it was just so surreal. We'd been working towards this point for 4 years. It was so crazy. And then obviously growing a business from there. So
sorry, that's my dogs. My dogs have decided to join us. And now they're just
growing a business. What was that? Sorry.
Now they're just sitting there staring at me. So
growing a business from there has been so hard, because so rewarding as well. It's like highest of highs, lowest of lows in some cases, you know. That's just business. But obviously there's an overarching that we love it, so we wouldn't be here if we didn't. Yeah.
And I think that's really important. You know, that 4 years before you even launched, I think that a lot of people look at a business owner or look at an entrepreneur's journey and think, oh, geez, you know, it happened really quickly, or 4 years, geez, that's not long. But realistically, it's 8 years. And those 4 years before, you're not making any money at all, and you're just coming up to hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. There's no get rich quick scheme. Like we hear these stories of success all of the time, and people just think, oh, geez, wow, what a great idea. That must have, like, that happened really quickly. But what you don't see is the 8 or 10 years of hard work that happened prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that for people listening out there who do have an idea or a business, it's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't take a year. Very few business owners come up with an idea and then within a year they're a millionaire.
And that's happened to people listening, but, you know, it's been a journey for us. Absolutely.
And so what's the hardest thing been?
Gosh, that is such a hard question, Emily. You know, one hard thing, I mean, I could easily pinpoint the best thing, but
okay.
I think the hardest thing is it changes throughout our life. You know, this business has been with us, as I said, for 8 years, and we've had different business is made of people, and we've had different challenges throughout that time. You know, early on, it's that belief. And then it's, you know, learning how to operate a business and Then it's learning how to manage a team, and it's learning how to, it's all those things. There's different, and now it's learning how to manage a business with a little baby. Like it's, it's just different. I think it depends on what point in life that we're at. Yeah.
It's an evolution. It's a process, isn't it? Like as you grow and evolve, your business grows and evolve, and where you were like 8 years ago is very different in terms of life stage to where you are now. So
yeah, exactly.
So what has been the best thing?
Well, that I actually find that comes to my mind straight away. And it is like our purpose for Blue Pods, right, is to give our guests a moment of great realization during our experience. So, you know, Steve and I used to ride bikes, pack our bags full of, you know, gourmet food and find nice places to stay. And during that time, we'd have moments of like, this is what life's about. This is incredible. And you'd reflect and you'd improve because of those moments. And that's what we aim to give our guests. In a kind of theoretical term, we call that a moment in flow. Flow is coined with mountain biking a lot, you know, and you can get flow on a bike just because of the challenging nature of mountain biking. But our experience is curated to give guests those moments. And when we have a guest come back and, you know, they've had those moments and they've had life-changing experiences, like the tingles are always there, and always number one, always.
Yeah, you get the feels. How good's that? Like how many people get to do something where they get the feels? I love it. I love it. I mean, I love mountain biking because of that reason. It's one of the only times where I feel truly present in the moment, and I get that feeling of being in flow because there's that, you know, I've studied a lot about flow because I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with how to get into flow states and how you can hack, like what are all the little hacks that you can do. And one of them is obviously the most common one is risk. Yeah. So when there is risk, which there is a lot in mountain biking, when there is risk, you can hack flow and you get into this feeling of flow, and there's nothing more rewarding than that feeling of being present in the moment and just having this laser focus and where everything disappears. And I can imagine getting to do that on a daily basis with people would be pretty awesome. And so if someone was starting a business right now and said to you, Tara, what's the one piece of advice that you wish that you had but didn't, what would it be?
Wish that I had but didn't. I'm not sure if it's what I wish that I had, but I didn't, because I feel like this just happened, you know, it just happened within Steve and I. But it has to be doing something that you really, really care about, you know. We've had many people, young people and older, starting business and joining on a journey with us, you know, people you collaborate with and you talk to and you bounce ideas off. And there's been people who have started businesses because they are so passionate about something. And there's been people who started businesses because they see a good bottom line. Obviously, the best business is the one that has both those things. But if you are only starting a business because of the bottom line, I guarantee it's not going to last, because you have to put so much into a business. And if you're not passionate about it, it just wears thin. And that's where we've seen businesses not be as successful, because the people don't have passion. And yes, that's what I would say. Just make sure you really, really care about what you're doing.
Absolutely. I love that, because that's what sustains you in the darkest hours of the night, where you're thinking, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing this? I just want to go and get a job where I can go to work and not have to worry about finances or cash flow or all of these things that you are carrying around in your backpack when you're a business owner. Definitely, absolutely agree with that, because if you don't know why you're doing it and you don't understand how to tap into that when you feel like you want to give up, then I think that you're doomed from the start. That's really great advice. And so what's been like a story that you can share with us about your business journey that perhaps people can learn from, like maybe something when you've had to overcome a challenge and something that you quite often think about and think, God, I can't believe I did that, or that was hard, but wow, what an experience.
Wow, that's also an interesting question. I've had to overcome a challenge. I mean, my mind always goes back to the startup phase and overcoming. There was so many challenges we had to overcome in that space. You know, for example, sticking to what we believed would work. So luxury adventure mountain biking wasn't a thing before Blue Pods Ride in Australia and even the world. We're still the first, and it was a real challenge to convince people that there was a market. Luxury adventure bushwalking is a huge thing, but 30, 40 years ago, that wasn't the case. So we believe there was a market there. So there was a huge challenge to convince people that this market was real. And so that took a lot of strength, and I'm glad we stuck with our feeling, like what we believed. But yeah, I think that new businesses and new ideas aren't going to come with a absolutely defined, this is 100% the market, or there's not going to be research out there that supports it, because it's a totally new business idea. So if I'm just thinking about listeners, like if there's a completely new business idea out there, don't be afraid to believe in a new market, essentially. Yeah,
and it's really interesting. I mean, over COVID, mountain biking has just exploded because it was one of the few things that you could actually do during a lockdown. You could still ride your bike unless you lived in Melbourne and you weren't allowed to go more than 5 kilometres from your house. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But how has COVID impacted your business? Because during that, like last year was just a shit show. Did it impact you, or did you find that just a lot more local Tasmanian people were coming and doing your tour because it was it's one of the only holidays that they could do? Lucky for the Tasmanians who weren't in lockdown.
Yeah. Kind of we approached COVID. COVID affected us drastically. So 95% of our 90% of our guests come from mainland Australia, and then 5% international and 5% Tasmanian.
Yep.
So prior to COVID, so we absolutely could not. We felt we could not rely on the 5% of Tasmanians to sustain us through however long COVID was going to last. So we decided to make a Tasmanian-only offering, which is a very simplified offering of what we would usually do. And that was really successful, thankfully. And then as soon as borders opened, as you just mentioned, there's been such a incredible increase in mountain biking and cycling in general that our demand's been really strong. So borders open, we're running hot. Borders shut, we're not, essentially. So that's been really lucky for us. So we've been able to bounce back quite quickly. So Tasmanians supported us, but not in our normal way. Yeah,
that's really interesting, because I think when a lot of people think of mountain biking, they think, young blokes who don't have any money. Do you know what I mean? There's this kind of demographic that you think about when you think of a mountain biker, but knowing what we know, what the actual demographic is, like you got people in mountain biking that like have $20,000, $30,000 bikes. These people have a lot of money, and they're obsessed with their sport. And I can totally see how a lot of people didn't get that. But I mean, absolutely, when you think about mountain biking now, it's that people the age bracket, I guess, of mountain biking as well is probably a lot older than people think. I mean, what would be like? I'm sure you've done a lot of work around who your ideal client is in your demographic. I'd be really interested to know what is your avatar or ideal client look like.
Well, I think you're dead right in what you just said. People people who aren't really in tune with the mountain biking market can immediately see, young lads riding and think that's who mountain bikers are. And that is definitely a group of the mountain biking market, but it's actually really broad, and Australia is behind other places in the world. So you just look to places like Canada, where Steve and I did market research with the Pods Ride, and it's even further advanced to what I'll just suggest here. But for us, our market is 40 plus, and it's couples. And generally one is more of an active mountain biker, and the other is interested and also totally up for a challenge. So that's why our offering appeals, because it means that someone can actually advance their skills while the other still has a blast. In addition, they're at a point in their life where they have a higher disposable income, and they want the creature comforts. They don't want to be making their own toasties after a ride. They want to have gourmet food provided for them and their wine poured. And that's again where our offering appeals. And then, of course, they live really busy lives, corporate lifestyles often, or in city lifestyles. So getting back to nature, and as we suggested before, the opportunity of being in flow to break that cycle and that mindset, it's really appealing. So you can see that's a totally different demographic to how that young bloke group could look. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I love it. It's been amazing talking to you, and I'm sure there's lots of listeners who have gotten a lot out of our conversation. And if people are interested in checking out Blue Derby Pod Rides, I always just call it Blue Derby Ride. I don't know why. I've obviously got your Instagram handle there, but where can people find out more about what you do? And
Instagram, obviously, Facebook as well. We do use both those platforms quite actively. Our website is, we think quite detailed, and we also have an active newsletter, so you can subscribe to that, and we keep a really good update on that. So they're probably the best ways, and also you can get in touch and we can chat about what we do.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was really interesting, some gold nuggets in there. But I definitely will be checking it out at some point when I'm not a cripple. That's the question. How many injuries have you had being a mountain biker? I'm interested.
Well, I feel like I should touch wood at the same time I say this, but I actually haven't had a mountain biking injury. I know, I'm very lucky. So I'll count that down to having my husband who's also an amazing guide, and that makes a big difference, I think. But no, I haven't yet, and
good on you. Yes, well, this is my first injury, apart from a few scraped knees and elbows, which I think are pretty, standard.
Yeah,
and then but interesting. Well, thank you so much. It was lovely to meet you. Lovely to meet another Tasmanian doing awesome things, and we're kind of neighbours, so maybe if you're down this way, I don't know, do you ride at St Helens at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of our tours heads that way too, but I will definitely find you. I'm sure if we don't make connection, we'll probably just bump into each other, because it's St Helens, it's tiny. So
well, I pretty much know the whole town already. Whenever I go to the supermarket, I'm like, "Oh, g'day, hello." It's not hard, but I'd love to have a coffee with you and keep in touch. But congratulations, what an achievement! Such a beautiful ecotourism adventure, and if anyone's keen, get down and check it out.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Emily. I really appreciate the chat.
No problems. Thank you.